All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight. Tonight we continue our conversation, and we're moving on to part 2 of depression. Youth of this generation are faced with the great challenge of choosing life partner. Many have followed practices and not principles. And these are less situations where you have a high rate of divorce and paternity fraud in many marriages. So the goal of this program is to help everyone that will be part of this to get it right in this critical area of their lives. You will hear some uncommon ideas about marriage in this series. But please note that these are based on research, they are based on scriptures, they are based on statistics, they are based on science, they are based on principle, and they will help you to align with the current reality of our times. Listen with an open mind and also go back to check some of the thoughts that have been shared in order to confirm if those things are so. In order to confirm if those things are so. We started discussing last week pressure. By pressure, I mean issues around the pressure of getting married. Issues around the pressure of getting married. Issues around the pressure of having kids, issue around the pressure of being able to take care of your family, and that these pressures are real. You know, it's like when we think of marriage, we think of the glamour and the issue around getting married, but we think less of the pressure that we face before and even during the marriage. And it's good you look at this thing holistically, so you actually have a very clear idea of what you are up against or what you are going to have to deal with by the time you eventually get married. And this also explains the reason why you should not be in a hurry. Be very sure this is something you want to do. Be very sure this is something you will be able to handle. Be very sure of this decision. You know, someone said some people were fine until they got married. Their life were okay. Everything was good. Everything was great until they got married. And after they got married, it became a big deal and a big issue because they were not ready to handle the demand that will be placed on them as a result of that singular decision to get married. And that's the situation today, that many might not be able to handle the challenges. Many might not be able to handle the challenges. Hence, the need to be adequately prepared. So last week, we mentioned all this issue around pressure, and we continue from where we left off this week. There's a place in Japan where most people live till 80 to 90 years. And it was observed that in that environment, there are some peculiarities. As a matter of fact, people have created for themselves an environment that enable them to induce less stress on them. It was observed in this environment people have created for themselves enabling environment that is less stress-inducing. That basically says that in our own world today, we created an environment that is stress-inducing. But we can choose to create an environment that is less stress reducing, like this particular place in Japan. These people do not retire from work. They do not become weak, even in old age. They still have the energy and many things to do, even in their old age. They actually changed the way they thought about stress. They changed the way they thought about our world. And they changed the way they thought about life in general. Now, remember last we were talking about this man, Anselai. And he said that every stress leaves an indelible scar in your body. Every stress leaves an indelible scar in your body. Every stress leaves an indelible scar in your body. And you actually pay for every stress you induce in your body, and you pay on it with your survival. We pay for it with your survival. I'm basically saying, after surviving every stressful situation, you become a little older. After surviving every stressful situation, you become a little older. At any point in time, your body is either in the growth mode or in protection mode. At any point in time, your body is usually in either in growth mode or protection mode. The regular mode for your body is the growth mode. The protection mode is activated when your thought about the perceived danger when your thought about the perceived danger is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Immediately you see that situation as being something you cannot handle, you automatically activate. You automatically activate the protection mode. You automatically activate the protection. So the protection mode is activated in your mind and through your thoughts. So because of the fear signal that have been sent by your thought to your brain and endocrine system, the hormonal system, the body organ is primed, prepared to overcome that threat. The body organ is primed and prepared to overcome that stress. To overcome the threat. So when your brain gets the signal of fear, your body releases hormones like adrenaline to get you ready to flee, to fight, to flee or to fight. But because, remember, it is your thought, the hormone release will not be utilized. So ordinarily, what should make you fearful, for example, should be like, In the early ages, things that create fear are things that are life-threatening. So, for example, you saw a lion. That fear, your body is primed for that fear. So your body begins to run away from that fear. Your body begins to run. Now, but your body is prepared to run physically because your mind said, oh, there is a danger. So you begin to run physically. Now, by running physically, you are utilizing that hormone. You are utilizing that hormone. You are utilizing that hormone until it wears out. Because the fear at that time was fear of something after your life that you need to run away from. Now, in our world today, the kind of fear we have is not fear of a lion chasing you. It can be the fear of losing your job, or the fear about taking your family, or fear of biological clock, or fear of going home. But your body does not know you are not going to run. You are just going to stay in one place and be thinking and feel sad. But the body will send a message to the brain. Your thought will send a message to the endocrine system. It will still release your hormone anyway, as if you are going to run anyway, but you are not going to run. So that means that hormone will not be utilized. That means that hormone will not be utilized. And that's very important. Because the hormone is not utilized, the hormone remains within your system, unutilized. But you have primed your organ to prepare for that stressful situation. Stretch your organ. But it was not used. These hormones are released to prepare your muscle to run. They are released to prepare your heart to pump more blood. They are released to prepare your body to get ready. They are released to prepare your body to get ready. But guess what? Guess what? Your body did not utilize this hormone. Your body did not utilize this hormone. And because your body did not utilize the hormone, it creates wear and tear in your system. This hormone remains in your system because you do not get to use it up. And consequently, it causes stress on your tissue, stress on your organ. This leads to wear and tear. Remember I said, for every stressful situation you go through, you pay for it with your survival. You pay for it with longevity. You pay for it with aging. The more stressed you are, the more you get older. The more stressed you become, the more you get older. This explains the reason why life expectancy is low. Remember, the body prepares you like you are in a stressful situation, you need to run, but it's going to release this hormone and you're not going to run because you are fearful like something is chasing you, but in the real sense, nothing is chasing you. You're just afraid of the current situation, of losing your job, of paying So the source of fear is school fees. The source of fear is rent. The source of fear is school fees. The source of fear is rent. That is the source of fear in our day. Unlike in those days, something else was causing the fear. Something else is causing the fear. And this is a different ball game in our days, ladies and gentlemen. A different ball game. And this is very, very important. Very, very important. So like the olden days when the cause of fear is lion and you're running away from it, today the source of fear is rent, school fees, late marriage, late childbirth. I mean, so many things today that are not the physical threat we have in those days. So we have created an environment that builds stress in us. And when this hormone is released, we don't utilize them because we're sedentary. Also know that the moment your body releases this hormone, your body switches to protection mode to protect you against the attack on your immune system. Attack on you, rather. And your immune system shut down and drop. This makes you to become more susceptible to different kinds of sicknesses. So, in fact, another theory says that when you are stressed, to combat that stress, your energy will be diverted in that direction. And your hormone requires a lot of energy. And the energy for the hormone to use it shut down is withdrawn, the hormone becoming ineffective, and you become susceptible to the disease. It is important to state that no problem that you face in life and in your relationship is new. People have faced it before, and they have overcome that challenge. People have faced it before, and they have overcome that challenge. So the problem is not new. Also remember that when you sleep, you don't even remember this event. But when you're awake, you think about it. But when you sleep, you don't even remember. And someone put it this way, you need to begin to separate yourself from the event you face in your life. You need to begin to separate yourself from the event of your life. You are different. The event of your life, the challenges you face is different from you. You are not the challenge. You need to learn to separate the event, the challenge from the event of your life. Why? Why is this necessary? This is necessary because it helps to relieve stress on you. You need to separate yourself from the event because if you do not begin to separate yourself from the event, you can't begin to think about them realistically. Delay marriage, for example, or not having kids, for example. If you are thinking you are the one that have a problem, you won't be able to think about it realistically. And you know, people will put a lot of things in your mind. Things like, is you are the one. They can even say you have, like, so a lady was telling me recently that they said, someone is saying that she has a problem. And they can put a lot of problem in your mind. Rather than looking at the situation holistically and finding solution to it, you now attribute it to one power, one spirit, one devil. And then you become fearful. Sometimes I wonder, for those that call themselves Christians, it's like, even though they believe God is powerful than the devil, but in their mind, they act like the devil is powerful than God. Remember that stress comes through your thinking, and that means you need to become mindful of how you think. Stress comes through your thinking. You need to become mindful of how you think. You need to become mindful of how you think. You need to become mindful of how you think. Also, please note that constantly hammering and complaining about what you don't want in your life is a stressor. So avoid repeating or talking or thinking about what you don't want. Going back and repeating what someone said. If not for this thing you did now. 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 You are basically increasing the stress in your life. You are basically increasing the stress in your life. Trying to repeat and refusing to forget what people have done is a stressor. It will stress you. It will stress you. It will stress you. So my question to you tonight is, how do you think about the situation you face as human? How do you interpret it? Someone said, when you change your perspective about your situation, the situation will change. When you change your perspective about your situation, the situation will change. When you change your perspective about a particular situation, the situation will change. How do you think about the situation you are faced with in your life? How do you think about it? Remember, you are the only one thinking about it that way. If you are not from Nigeria, if you are not from Africa, there is a way you will not think, because you will not have some reality that make us to think the way we think. Because if someone says you have a problem because you are not married, or because you married late, or because you don't have kids, what will you say about those that refuse to marry? Or those that marry and refuse to have kids? Maybe you say they have bigger problem. You say they have bigger problem. Or how else do you explain it? How else do you explain it? One of the major stressors at work as an employee at home with your husband and domestic staff is your expectation from them. Your expectation from your employer, your expectation from your wife, from your husband, from your children, and from your domestic staff, house help. It is important for you to know that you need to lower your expectation from your boss or from your staff, from your husband or from your wife. You need to lower your expectation from your domestic staff so that you do not stress yourself too much. Now, let me tell you something. The rate of stress in your life is directly proportional. The rate of stress build up in your life is directly proportional to the gap between your expectation and your reality in life. The gap between your expectation and your reality. The gap between your expectation and your reality is what creates stress in our life. What are you expecting for your husband? What are you expecting for your wife? What are you expecting for your children? What are you expecting for your boss? What are you expecting for your staff? The gap between expectation and reality is what creates stress in our life. Don't have unrealistic expectation. And don't be surprised that your husband or wife disappoints you. He's a human being. He can disappoint you. He can mess up. Each time people are about to get married and I tell them, please ensure you are willing to forgive your spouse if he or she cheated on you. They cannot contain it. It's not an easy one. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm only saying, what if it happens? What if it happens? If it happens, what will you do? If it happens, what will you do? Until you separate yourself from the event, you cannot see the option you need to take an informed decision. Until you separate yourself from the event, you cannot see the option available to take an informed decision. There's nothing wrong with you. You need to know that there's nothing wrong with you. You just have unrealistic expectations. Maybe you set a time that you must marry, you set a time you must have your kids, you set a time that you must do this. Those are your expectations. An idea happen, put yourself under pressure. If you allow your thoughts to replay the scenario constantly, you will not have the clarity to move out of that situation. Please note that there's always an option that can be explored to resolve any situation that you find yourself. There's always a way out. He said, will not allow any situation to come across you that is beyond your power. And he said, God is faithful. Who will not allow you to be tempted above they are able. But with the same temptation, will make a way of escape that you might be able to bear it. But sometimes we don't see that way of escape. Also know that most of our problem as human is as a result of the fact that many people are biting more than they can chew. Many people are biting more than they can chew. Many going to marry with debt because of the cost they incur during wedding. And many do not have plan on how to manage their finances effectively. So you have increased your cost and start life with debt, but you are not able to plan your finances well enough. This makes them to be stressed by childbirth. They are stressed by rent. They are stressed by school fees. if you do not put yourself in a frame of mind that help you separate yourself from that situation that you constantly, you will constantly be under stress. And this will make you to begin to age. Remember, for every stressful situation you go through, remember, you pay for it with aging. You pay for it with life expectancy. You literally pay for it with your life. Remember that life event is neutral. Life events are neutral. They happen outside of you. You are the one that brings them into your life by the way you think about it. You bring them to your life through your through instrumentation of thought. And that brings stress into your life. To prevent this from happening, learn to change your perspective and the way you think about the stress. Someone said your disposition to the challenges of life is going to determine whether it's going to be a consuming fire or a refining fire. Your disposition to the challenges of life is going to determine whether it's going to be a consuming fire or a refining fire. It is our subconscious programming that influences how our stressor affects us. If your father always shouts on you as a lady, this will make you to be fearful and make you belittled. If you marry a husband that also yells at you, this will make you to live in fear with your spouse. This therefore make your subconscious programming to make you to become your stressor. And you'll be constantly living under stress because of the way you have been programmed. You were living in fear in your parents' house. You are now married. You are living in fear in your husband's house. What a life. If you think of a situation that is not palatable, that you are in right now, and you are seeing a reality, you will think this is your reality, but it is not the reality, but rather it is the reality you have created. It is the reality you have created. That's not the reality. That is the reality that you created by the way you think. This should be tremendously liberating for you, because if you are stuck in that reality, then you are really stuck. That's why two people can go through the same problem and the outcome in their life are different. Whereas someone sees it as a challenge to overcome, the other person sees it as a problem to destroy his life and make him useless, make his life meaningless. The same situation, different interpretation. But if you are stuck in that reality you created, and which is often the case, then the good news, that's a good news, right? Because you can change it. You can deconstruct your mind and build another one. So if you are locked in a reality you created that is not palatable, you can change it. How do you see that situation? How do you perceive it? How do you perceive it? How do you perceive that situation? Remember, we're discussing pressure in marriage, relationship and marriage. We're under pressure. You know, sometimes some of the things we even think about are things that might happen in future. So they have not even happened. No. They have not even happened. Someone was thinking, if I'm not able to pay my rent now, that means me and my husband or me and my wife will be thrown out. That means we'll be on the street. That means we'll not have a house. That means it has not happened. It's already thinking about it. Someone said God gave us two very important gifts. Vivid sense of memory and fantastic sense of imagination, vivid sense of memory, and fantastic sense of imagination. These are two that human beings have. But many human beings cannot handle it. They can't handle the situation. They can't handle that sense of memory. They can't handle that sense of memory because they only think about the bad thing that happened in the past. They can't handle imagination. They only imagine the negative things about themselves, about their life. Negative things about themselves, about their life. Is it not interesting? Is it not interesting? That's the challenge we have as humans. Somehow, this tool that makes us different from animal, this tool that should be a good news for us, this news that should make us better human beings, it is this same tool and this same gift is the problem for many people in their lives. This same gift, the gift of memory and the gift of imagination. Vivid sense of memory, fantastic sense of imagination. So when we think about negative things happening, that has not happened, but we are imagining it to happen. When we think like that, it is because of this issue. Sense of memory and imagination. Vivid sense of memory, fantastic sense of imagination. That's what's causing it. Using what has happened to us in the past to judge the future and imagining evil happening. That is what put us under stress. And remember, stress, whenever you are stressed, you pay for it with your life. You pay for it with aging. Please note that circumstances are always overrated. Your reality today, even though it might appear true, it's not the truth about you. It is the duty of human spirit to outgrow known self. Your reality today is the total sum of your environment, your experience in life. And this is what has given you the belief you have. You should learn to create an alternative reality for yourself in every situation. If the current reality you are seeing is draining a lot of emotional energy from you, then create an alternative reality. What if there is a delay in marriage because the man you will have married might have led to your death, might have been create domestic violence and even deface you, or he might have died and make you a widow? Have you thought of that? And God delay because God has a better man for you, and he needs you to be adequately prepared to handle him. Or God has a better wife for you, and you need to be adequately prepared to handle her. You have delay in childbearing. Maybe God wants you to become a man that will be able to prepare this child for the future, because the child, you are a steward, and the child is an opportunity given to you by God to be able to prepare this child for his future. Maybe God is preparing you to be able to prepare for the future. Maybe is equipping you to be able to handle this challenge. You can look at this from different perspective. From different perspective. Now, I give you an example. The other time, one of my colleague in the office that helped us to clean, he was cleaning the car, and I think he put on the radio, and the battery of the car ran down. So when I came in, immediately I tried to put on the car, the radio came up, but the car was not starting because the battery ran down. After starting, we have to go and get the battery charger. They have to come and jumpstart the car. It delayed me for about 10, 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes. I was unhappy, but something was telling me, what if this happened and this delay have saved you an accident on your way home? Maybe this was necessary to save you from an accident, and God allowed this to happen to save you. So suddenly, even though I'm unhappy with him for running down the battery and making me spend money to jumpstart it, but when I think about it, that what if it had been a way of saving me from an accident? Suddenly, that delay become pleasurable, become happy. Literally, I'm literally almost thanking him for the delay. Why? I began to see that delay in a different light. Change your perspective. Give yourself a different narrative about your situation. Change your perspective. Give you a different narrative. If you don't help your mindset, you are going to destroy yourself with stress. You need to create an alternative reality for yourself in every situation. If the current reality you have is draining you, can you begin to see this in a different light? The alternative reality must have two parameters. It must be better than the current reality, and it must be something that you most likely can believe in. So that alternative reality must, number one, it must be a better situation than the current reality, and it must be something that is possible. You can believe in it. You know it's possible, so you believe in it. The beauty of the scripture is that there is truth. There are truths that we can use to create for ourselves alternative reality. For example, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. Paul said, unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelation that was given to me. It was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this I besought the Lord thrice, that I might depart from me. For he said, my grace is sufficient for thee. For my strength is made perfect in your weakness. Most gladly, therefore, would I rather glory in my infirmity, that the power of Christ may rest upon you. See the way Paul created alternative reality. Can you see the way he created alternative reality? Can you see the way he created alternative reality? All things work together for you. You can create for yourself alternative reality. 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 If you do not create for yourself alternative reality, you'll be sad, you'll be unhappy. You just put yourself on unnecessary pressure, make yourself sad because of that pressure. In life, many people think that you need more money, but in the real sense of the word, what you need is the feeling that money makes you to have, not the money in the bank. It's the way it makes you feel secured. But truly, this is not the feeling that you have. But truly, it's not the feeling that you have, but rather the feeling that you think you will have when you have money is the driver. You need to see your life, and you need to see your life and success differently. You cannot make a quantum leap of growth in your life by working harder, or by working smarter, or by managing your time better. All these are good. The only way you are going to make a quantum leap in your life is beginning to think differently. Think differently. Think differently. Think differently. Think differently. Your entire life can be changed in trying to exert control over an internal or external part of your environment. Please note that you do not have control. You never had control, and you will never have control over life. You only have an illusion of control. Stop trying to control what happened to you in life. Rather, take control of the way you experience what happened to you in life. Take control, take charge of the way you experience what happened to you in life. Whatever it is that life threw at you, before marriage, in marriage, childbirth, no child, money, no money. Take control of the way you feel. Because you don't have control. A good example is being in the traffic and being angry because of delay that you do not have control over, which you want to control. But you have control over your experience by ensuring that you turn your car into a lecture room and begin to listen to different things that will make you maximize your time in traffic. Suddenly, the same traffic that make you sad can be a source of learning by converting that time in traffic into a valuable time of learning. A lot of time in your life, you have the ability to decide how you respond or react to a situation. You see, in this life, you are either responding or reacting. You are either responding or reacting. Responding is positive, reacting is negative. Finally, I would like to say that when you are faced with challenges of life, someone said, breathe in very deep and then breathe out. This enables you to focus from the challenges and on your breath. Flip it and give that situation another better interpretation that make you think and then make you to see options that are available to resolve the issue. Try to catch yourself about how you think about situations. Catch yourself. Just observe yourself the way you think about situations. Remind yourself that the way you feel is actually based on the way you are thinking, not actually as a result of situation you are confronting. Thank you very much, everyone, for being able to join tonight. Oh, I only have Favor here. Okay, maybe because we did this today on Sunday, I was busy yesterday. All right, Favor, good evening. How are you? Hello, good evening. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, long time. Hello?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Fine, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
What have you learned tonight?
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for the teaching today. It's actually quite, I don't know how to say it.
You said what? Quite what?
It's actually quite interesting, and it's kind of deep or touchy, especially for someone like me, going by where I'm coming from and what I've experienced and my experience. It's really, I don't know how to put it, but I don't know what to say. It's not so easy.
Yes.
It's just a challenge around it. It's just like when you were speaking about what people would say and things like that. I can remember a time, an incident that happened in the office.
Okay.
Someone called me and then was telling me that my and the person, you know, each time when they ask me, because when I got married, my husband traveled out. Each time I go to the office, they'll be like, okay, where's your husband? And then I say, my husband is not around. You know, I continued for like 1 year, 6 months, and they'll be like, At some point, somebody was like, no, you're not married. I was like, I don't understand it.
Show him your wedding picture now.
Okay, so I had even been, and I was wearing a ring. I was wearing, funny enough, my husband bought 3 rings. So the ring will almost feel my hand. And then they're looking at me like, I was looking like I was crazy, like wasn't real. At some point, when I saw that they kept disturbing me in the office, I one day called him and I said, okay, speak to my husband. And then she said, hello, are you truly Favor's husband? And she started saying so many things. And then that's when she actually believed me. When we dropped the phone after that conversation, I told him, I said, look, you're beginning to make me look very funny and so untrue. Like, I'm not for real. I got married to you in December. You travel in January. From January, each time I will see you, I'll maybe see him 1 year, 6 months after, and he will do just 3 weeks in Nigeria, and that's all. So it was really challenging for me. So I really don't know. You know, sometimes I don't know how to put it. Like you mentioned around expectations. I probably think I had very high expectations because I
Yeah,
was looking
yeah,
forward
yeah,
to a whole lot of things. I
yeah.
felt that as a young girl, not exploring or probably knowing so many things, I thought, okay, in marriage, I will now, you know, when you go to church and you're always hearing, when you get married, just wait for your marriage, the time when you get married. So I had expectations of getting married, like mind-blowing expectations. I thought,
Mm,
oh, when I marry, my prince will take me like a queen. He will
yeah.
do so many things for me. You know, I had so many expectations, and those
Mm,
expectations got dashed almost immediately. It was as if I
mm,
woke up to seeing that it wasn't the truth. So
yes.
one of the things I took away from it was that I wasn't prepared. I didn't
Mm,
understand what I was doing. I just went into something expecting so much, thinking that it was just going to be
Rosie.
oh, I love you so much, so rosy and all true. But there were things I ought to have learned. There were things I ought to have known. There were things I ought to do. There were things I shouldn't have expected. Just like when you touched on cheating. I think as a young girl, I didn't think that it was right for any man to cheat on
Mhm.
anybody. And I was like, if I marry, if the man cheats on me, that's the end. Even when we
Mm,
have conversations around it. So what it will do at the end of the day, it will make the person really hide a lot of things from you. It will make the
yeah.
person act up. Like he would say he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't do any of those things. He's very religious. And then you come back smelling drinks when I'd gotten married. And then I say, what's happening? I can perceive alcohol. And it's like, no, my friends were drinking. I was just sitting there. We'll have outings where I'll go with friends and his friends, and then I'll see he's drinking soft drink. I can't tell now if he was acting up or the rest of it, but I just discovered that because we have very high expectations sometimes of
Yeah.
our spouses, it then makes those who want to pretend probably pretend and act up until you get married to them, or pretend even to a point where they get suffocated and then they start to act funny. I
Mm,
think
mm,
I'm still
mm.
going to have to listen to this message over and over again to just digest and then. But I have really learned a whole lot. But because of my experience, I think I was taking in so many things. There were too many things that were said that I was still trying to process in my
Mm,
mind. Even
mm.
in the aspects of rounding up what you were saying on our realities and
Mhm.
seeing things from a different perspective.
Perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said to myself, okay, maybe all those challenges, just like those times I was facing, it got to some point in the office. I had to start telling everybody my story. So if you just ask me, where's my husband? I'll say, okay, I got married, my husband traveled out, the whole thing just hits me. I don't even know which information to keep to myself or what information to pass on
Mm,
to
mm,
them. So I
mm,
would just say any and everything. Maybe you meet me at a particular point. I know I had a child again with my child, the experience of childbirth and being a mother, everything fell on me at the same time. So I think I just had so many things happening, work pressure, everything. But I have learned something today and I'm really going to work on it. How I respond to maybe the challenges that I face or the things around
yes.
me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
that just means that it's the way I'm seeing. If I magnify something, it becomes that big. But if I
Yes.
probably
Yes.
relax and think through it, I would see other solutions around it. I've really
Yes.
learned so much tonight, and I'm going to have to play back and then listen again and then make informed decisions that I will start to take. And I believe that if I see it in that light, just like when you were explaining, I try to think about it and say, oh, that's true. Because if I have a challenge, for instance, in the office, and I see it as a stepping stone for me, or I see it as a way of improving myself, or a need for
Mhm,
me to go and improve myself, then it no
mhm,
longer becomes like a challenge. It becomes
mhm.
like a thing that is going to trigger me or is going to pull me higher or is going to push me
Yes.
higher. So if I see it from
Yes.
that
Yes.
light, I will no more be depressed or try to be sad around it and thinking, oh, this person is just trying to punish me. But I see myself improving myself and say, oh, I'm learning new things and I'm becoming better. Thank you so much, sir, for
Yes. Yes. You know, it's so important. Um, Perspective is a big issue for us as humans. And you need to be conscious as human to be able to put in right perspective. I had to do that consciously. As in, that's why I gave you the example of when the car had a problem, and then I had to begin to ask myself, why are you so unhappy with this guy? What if this was a way to prevent accident from happening? Suddenly, that same situation I'm unhappy about, it became comforting that, maybe this guy has helped me today. You know that this is the same situation, but I'm just beginning to see it in a different light. And then it makes it to be peaceful. You become unhappy, unpacked up. You're not worried again. You're not sad again because of that situation, even though the situation has not really changed, only that you are seeing it in a different light. Only that you are seeing it in a different light. So, I mean, with the situation you are in, for example, maybe you can never tell. Maybe if he had been around, maybe there could be a big issue of domestic violence and a lot of issues. I think you really cannot tell. So, but if you begin to look at it and look, maybe this is a way God is using to preserve me. Maybe he's using it to preserve me. Maybe if this guy had been around, so and so would have happened. And because of the way he lives, and by not being around, even though it's a painful one for me, but I'm alive. And I have enough to be able to take care of my daughter. Do you know that kind of stuff? So suddenly you can begin to see the good in those things. The fact that you can afford to pay your rent, you can take care of your daughter, you can take care of yourself, you can begin to see how you can live your life for the future. Life just begin to make sense. It's just perspective. But take a lot of conscious living to be able to think that way. And the reason why that is good for your sanity, it's good for your mind, it's good for your brain, so that you do not find yourself in a situation you are just being perpetually sad, stressed, unhappy because of a situation you don't have control over. I mean, is it not interesting as the way we live a life, a situation we don't have control over, we are disturbing ourselves about it. You don't have control over it, and you're sad about it. Something you don't have control over. Something you don't have control over. You're sad about it. You cannot control it. You do not have control over it. So, since you can't control it, your sadness will not make it any different. Why don't you just make yourself happy? All right. Next week, the next 3 weeks, it will be good for you to be around. We'll be discussing parenting. The next 3 episodes is going to be on parenting. Try to be around.
Okay, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend and bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.